In addition to one of the coolest and most fun speedruns out there, this game has some of the best cutscenes you've ever seen. You're in for a treat. The story starts out with Dr. Eggman trying to figure out what his mad scientist grandfather's research is about. Along with some pretty epic 2002 flame effects, here we have our first Dr. Eggman stage. In this game, there are 3 types of stages: mecha stages, treasure hunting stages, and 3D classic Sonic platforming stages. So the main goal of stage 1 is to make sure you have smooth movement and don't lose too much time. It does get more interesting later. I mean, this is literally the first stage. There are many security doors you blast throughout the level, and there's one small skip where you can get through a security door without having to knock it down. Since it comes in slowly, you can run quickly to the right part of it and save a few seconds. I have pretty good movement overall and get a solid time of 2:12. Here, Eggman finds his grandfather's work using a Chaos Emerald. Basically, if you want to know what a Chaos Emerald is and what it can do, the answer is literally everything. Like Elsa's ice powers or Batman with preparation time, whenever the riders want to add in a power of any kind, a Chaos Emerald is going to do it. Shadow is released from its prison and is apparently going to be loyal to Dr. Eggman, since he's the one who freed him. The alarms sound and the government calls in one of their big mecha units, and this leads us to the first boss fight. This boss flies around too high to jump on, so the strategy is to do a quick homing attack and then jump in order to hit the boss before it jumps up into the air. This way it will stay on the ground as long as you keep chaining attacks. I managed to do it well and have a really good boss fight. The first hit can definitely be tricky here. The story then shifts to Rouge and Knuckles having a standoff over a massive gem, and we get some absolutely incredible voice lines.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
What are you talking about?
After a small argument between the two of them, Dr. Eggman flies in and yoinks the Mastered Emerald away. This leads us to the first treasure hunting stage where Rouge needs to find 3 of the broken pieces of the Master Emerald. There are about 100 locations that each piece can be, and speedrunners memorize the location based on the first clue. So I start out by grabbing the first clue, then I go to the highest point and grab the first piece. Rouge stages have a large amount of RNG, but still require good play for a good time. I then grab another clue and jump on the turtle to get me to the other section of the level. Here I grab piece number 2, rinse and repeat, and grab piece number 3. 1 minute and 3 seconds. Not incredible, but not bad either. Back to Dr. Eggman, he has a base inside a pyramid and we are going to get him there. This stage has one of the hardest tricks in the entire run and has led me to reset my run many times. Alright, first try, I get the first jump, I get the second jump, and then I press B a frame too late. Alright, second try. I get the first jump, but then I mess up the movement between the jumps. Alright, okay, third try. Get the first jump, got the second, the missile looks good, and I got it. The 2 deaths are only about a 20-second time loss, but this skip saves more than a minute, so I keep going. After walking through the air, you need to position yourself underneath the mine-dropping machine so that you can get low enough to collect the Mystic Melody upgrade. This upgrade allows you to transport through a significant portion of this stage. Fun fact, I'm actually full on tilted during this run because one run prior I was a minute ahead and got this skip on the first try. And then a mine exploded on my head, destroying the mine-dropping machine and ending my run.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
Anyway, I continue through the level and about 20 seconds later there's another skip. This one's not very difficult. Basically you stand underneath a pillar falling on you. If you jump right before it lands on you, you'll gain enough height to get on top, saving a good 10 seconds or so. After that, I finish out the stage with a time of 2:02. Very solid. So this game was originally made in Japanese, and since English is slower, you get a lot of funny desync moments like this one.
Mysteriously, the only thing that was stolen was the Chaos Emerald.
So Eggman finds out that Shadow stole a Chaos Emerald from the Federal Reserve, and the public all think he's Sonic. That's just kind of part of the plot that no one can tell the difference between Shadow and Sonic. This leads us to our first Shadow mission of escaping the government through the streets. Super cool. We also learn a little bit about Shadow's backstory here. He's remembering a girl who's apparently telling Shadow to do something on Earth, and also appears to save Shadow while dooming herself. So this leads our edgelord to care about one thing.
Revenge!
First, you want to spin dash down the first hill, since Shadow has a much higher top speed while in his ball form. If you're on a flat surface, you'll want to do a spin dash cancel into another spin dash, since even though rolling has the highest top speed, it loses speed quickly if you're not going downhill. Next, we roll down a big hill and then jump off the side to land a bit later in the stage. Then, if you homing attack and hold A at the spring, you can get enough height to skip another section. Then you continue through the level. Here there's a spring in an unbreakable box, but you can hit it from the side like this. Next is a very tricky jump. I only sometimes get it first try. You need a high enough jump and a very precise angle in order to jump off and hit the spring. I do manage to get it first try, and from here you grind down the San Francisco Bridge. Then you continue along with some nice movement. Some of these sections like this one feel so good when it's executed cleanly. After that, there aren't any more crazy skips and I make it to the goal ring with a time of 2:10. Then Sonic comes in and starts crying about his problem since the government can't tell them apart, and calls Shadow a fake hedgehog. The Edgelord King has enough problems of his own and just teleports out of there. Yeah, KS Emeralds give you teleportation powers. Then the story cuts to Rouge, who has followed Eggman to the pyramid and now wants to sneak in. First, she'll need to find 3 keys in order to infiltrate Eggman's base. So I grab my first hint and I get incredibly lucky. Red Warrior means it's one of the 2 enemies right in front of me. I grab the first piece, get the second clue, and then get an upgrade that allows me to dig. The second clue is also super lucky. It's right next to the upgrade and I grab that quickly. The third clue I do not recognize, but I know what room it's in, and I finally get it with a good time, but it could have been an amazing time. This brings us to an Eggman mission on the Ark. The first half of this level is pretty standard Eggman movement, but then you get the most useful and fun upgrade. You get the ability to hover jump. There's a mechanic where if you press the hover button immediately after jumping, you can get more height than the devs intended, and this technique leads to some pretty cool skips. In order to press A twice very quickly, speedrunners jump pause, then unpause hover. This is much easier to pull off than mashing A twice. It comes in handy here when you need to make a pretty tight jump that is only possible with pause hovering. For the rest of the level, you mostly just want to keep moving forward and being as quick as possible. I end the level with a 235, not bad. Shadow explains that the Ark is where there was a secret facility for creating weapons of mass destruction. In fact, the Ark is designed to destroy a planet, powered by 7 Chaos Emeralds. Rouge is eavesdropping and then jumps in to tell Eggman where they can find the Chaos Emeralds. It's not really clear why she wants to help, but Eggman takes the info and comes up with a plan to get them. He will distract, Rouge will steal the gems, and Shadow will plant the explosives to blow up the island afterwards to cover their tracks. This leads us to my favorite Eggman mission in the game. First, you run super fast along a military hangar. Normally you need an upgrade here to break some unbreakable boxes, but you can just pause hover up this thing and get past the boxes. Next, you can land on this light and pause hover off to skip a large section. It's pretty hard to pull off, but saves a lot of time and is super cool. You then continue a bit more, going over another hangar, and then need to execute a couple more pause hovers to get to the final hangar. Here, you can pause hover up the side and then pause hover onto the satellite. It's super precise, and I managed to get it on my first try, getting a 137, which is an incredibly good time. So now Eggman has distracted the military. This gives Shadow and Rouge an opening. But then for some reason, Amy is here, and she thinks Shadow is Sonic. Eggman then threatens Amy, and Tails comes in to save her. Next is the boss fight against Tails. Tails isn't too difficult, you basically just need to snipe him once, and then keep shooting him once he becomes attackable. During the fighting, Rouge has made it into the vault that has the Chaos Emeralds, and our mission here is to find 3 of them. I grab the first hint and know exactly where it is. Very quick grab. I then get the same hint. Since there are many duplicate first hints for different pieces, I figured out where it is and grabbed the second. Pretty fast too. Finally, I also know where the third is, and it's not too difficult to get. Security Hall can have some really hard pieces, so I feel really good about getting a 108. After stealing the emeralds, the government sends in a mech to stop me.
I can't believe I've come this far just to fail.
In order to make this fight fast, you need to do a screw kick right at the beginning to perfectly hit the cockpit. I get the first hit, and then it's just a matter of getting the other hits while trying to limit his movement. I finished the boss in 42 seconds. Solid. While Rouge was getting the emeralds and Eggman was distracting the military, Shadow has already set explosives everywhere on the island. This is a major problem since they are set to go off and Rouge is still stuck in the safe. Shadow thinks about Maria and decides he needs to risk his life to save Rouge. This leads us to another Shadow mission. It starts off with some pretty basic movement, and the main thing is you want to avoid hitting the springs, since they each slow you down by like a couple seconds. A bit later into the stage is an interesting skip. When you hold down B, there's a delay on your spin dash. If you hold down B right before hitting this spring, you'll actually skip the next spring. Then, you can do a spin dash jump to get a ton of distance and skip the light dash upgrade completely. Then, you can use another spin dash jump to skip this loop and run through and finish the stage. For some reason, you then run into Sonic, who's mad, so you have to fight him. This is where you probably have the most famous unskippable dialogue in the game.
You're comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough to be my those words.
For this fight, you use something called storage. When you hold down B before you spin dash, the game thinks and gives you the properties of rolling, which does damage. In order to beat Sonic, you can do this and the game doesn't have a defense for it since the devs didn't anticipate this being a strategy. It can be a little tricky, but I get it super smoothly and get a time of 15 seconds. Shadow then just barely makes it in time to save Rouge. He then uses the Chaos Emeralds to teleport them to safety. Then we get a scene about Maria caring about the Earth, and this was totally ripped off 12 years later by Old Noah.
Shadow, what do you think it's like on Earth?
Such a beautiful planet. Earth.
Sonic Adventure is definitely the better mecha anime. Anyway, they get enough Chaos Emeralds to power up the Ark just enough to blow up the moon. They decide to broadcast while they blow up the moon in order to scare people into submitting to them. It seems to work. Eggman also leaves an ominous timer that I guess means the Earth will be destroyed, which is a little weird because I feel like Eggman might want Earth. Rouge then cryptically reports to somebody that she is looking into Shadow, apparently in exchange for jewels, so it's not clear who she is working for. Is it some kind of jewel group? Is it the Yakuza? Is it some kind of overlord Batmaster who controls all the Batgirls in the world? We don't know. Regardless, this leads to the next stage, which is a kart racing stage. Rouge needs to drive in a car to catch Tails, who is flying around. Not much to say about the stage. Basically, you want to drift since that's the fastest, and you don't want to die because there's no checkpoints and the stage is 3 minutes long. Anyway, Rouge catches up to Tails and tells Shadow where he's going. This leads to the next Shadow stage. And this stage ends up being super short because there's a major skip you can do with the pumpkin heads and spin dash jump. Basically, you jump off this rail onto a pumpkin head, you spin dash jump onto the next pumpkin head, and then spin dash jump onto the church. This is a huge skip which saves a lot of time. Shadow then notices that Tails is heading towards Eggman. So Eggman prepares a giant huge rock monster to attack Sonic. Of course, the monster has an Uno reverse card on his head and Sonic hits it, leading to the Eggman boss fight. This one is a bit tricky, since if you get hit, you'll likely fall, which wastes a decent amount of time. Basically, you do damage from hitting him with your rockets, and do extra damage if those rockets hit one of the 3 plates. So what you want to do is try to position yourself on the ledge to get extra damage. I finished the boss off in 31 seconds. Rouge finds out that they got away, and she doesn't seem too bothered by it.
What do you mean they escaped? That's okay.
While doing research about Shadow, she realizes that there are some pieces of the Master Emerald hidden in space. And that leads us to our last and most difficult Rouge stage. First thing first, I go to the first planet and get the shiny kicks to upgrade, so I can break the unbreakable boxes. Then travel up a few more rockets and get to the very, very top. I pick up the first piece, and then I get the hint for the second piece. There are a lot of platforms on this planet, so it takes me a second to find which one. But then I eventually grab it. The final piece is floating at the bottom of the map. It's a little tricky to grab, since it's easy to miss the hitbox and waste a lot of time. I managed to grab it first try and get a time of 2:05. Not the best, but definitely not horrible. Knuckles then confronts Rouge about the pieces of the Master Emerald. This leads to a boss fight over the other person's pieces. This fight can be super, super long casually, but speedrunners use a strat of consistently drill diving so you can chain hit Knuckles before you get to the very slow stage 2 of the fight. I managed to pull it off without an issue, and the story takes a pretty bizarre turn. Alright, so remember Rouge from earlier? Notice her wings? Notice flying? Now, stay with me. The next scene shows Rouge falling off a high pole, and then Knuckles saving her. She is like closing her eyes, accepting death. But like this has a huge story ramification because Knuckles saved her, she just gives all the Master Emerald pieces to Knuckles. So Knuckles now has the Master Emerald. Anyway, while this is going on, Eggman sees Sonic, Tails, and Amy in a security camera and decides to go attack them, which leads us to the first space-themed Eggman stage with wonky gravity. The way this level works is that you can go much higher by spacing out your jump hover. The first minute or so isn't too complicated and requires good movement like in previous Eggman levels, but after that, there's a skip where you need to jump, then hover up into a building ceiling, go to a specific point where the game will bring Eggman higher, then avoid a few invisible kill planes that are all very close to you. Once you break through, stage becomes a little boring. Here are some highlights from the remaining 3 minutes of this stage. You know, it does have some nice music. It's a good time to reset your mental. The actual level is pretty interesting, but we don't do any of the actual level. Anyway, I complete the mission with a pretty decent time. Eggman makes it to the base, threatens to murder Amy with a big gun, and will only not kill her if Sonic gives him the Chaos Emerald. Sonic, having a fake emerald, is happy to give it up. However, Eggman knows it's fake and traps Sonic in a tube. Tails then confirms it's fake.
You thought you could trick me with that fake emerald, didn't you?
So, how did you know it wasn't the real one?
Tails! Because you just told me, Fox Boy.
So Eggman is like, might as well murder Sonic while I'm here. He shoots him off the spaceship and he super explodes. Like, super dead. Tails is sad that Eggman killed Sonic, and so this brings us to the boss fight with Tails. This one is actually pretty difficult. Tails will use an ability twice that does like 75% of your health if you don't avoid it. I've had runs where it took me more than 5 times to beat him. On this run, I managed to get the first hit, avoid his initial attack, and then dodge his massive attack. Since I was quick enough, he only uses his massive attack once, and then I get him down. This is looking like a pretty solid run at this point. Rouge is talking about taking all the Chaos Emeralds out loud, and Shadow walks in. He then develops his first wrinkle in his brain as he realizes there is a government spy also named Rouge the Bat.
Now I know who you are. You're that government spy, Rouge the Bat, aren't you?
Which, remember, that's how she introduced herself. Like, she wasn't hiding anything. Anyway, this leads us to Final Chase, the most difficult Shadow mission. The level starts out with grinding down a rail and then spin dash jumping to the next section. The main feature of this level are green gravity tubes, which will cause Shadow to stick to them, but not consistently, so it's super easy to die. Honestly, I'm really happy with where my run is at this point, and I only have 1 life left, so I'm taking this stage super safe. I still do some semi-risky jumps to save some time, and I absolutely love this jump. You get so high, it feels super good. I do really like this stage since the gravity's a little different and you can get some crazy jumps. I know there are a few more skips in here that are super cool, and if you want to see them, I linked to some of my favorite runners in the description. You should check them out if you want to see some literal god level Sonic play. I managed to get through the stage with a very okay 322. Then this leads to the final boss, which is fighting Sonic. Apparently not dead. If you attack him with the right timing, you can damage him as many times as you want in a row, but as time passes, the floor sinks. If you think you'll get him and you don't, you can easily die here and have to restart the boss. I managed to get him down with a pretty decent time, getting me a 32:50 in-game time, which is how Sonic speedruns are calculated. So that completes the Dark Story run, but I have to tell you how the story ends up. Like, you've got a dead Sonic, Shadow identity crisis, Rouge being a government spy, and Knuckles being, nearby. So Eggman has the 7th Chaos Emerald, and it's revealed that his grandfather essentially has a program where once all 7 emeralds are collected, the Ark will plummet into Earth, killing literally everyone. So Eggman's grandfather is dead, and right before he dies, he literally explains how collecting all 7 emeralds is the key to destroying the Earth. Which, that's fine, but at every step, Rouge came in and helped collect them. Like, she's supposed to be working for the government. In fact, the fact that she is working for the government is probably why she knew about where the Chaos Emeralds were. They were in a government-locked security vault on a secret island. And speaking of, she leads them to the island and is totally down to just blow up the entire island. There's definitely at least some people on that island that she's fine with killing. Yeah, and I'm not even talking about the elephant in the room. She allowed the moon to get blown up. If she's working for the government, that means the government cares more about gaining some info on Shadow than they care about the moon being intact. Okay, so anyway, back to Eggman's grandfather. Basically, he was working on the ultimate life form in order to help mankind, and then the government feared it or there's an accident. They sent some guards to shut it down, but they were a little heavy-handed and murdered some of the people. This was a research lab. The government just needed to shut down the lab, and somehow his granddaughter got murdered along with other people. So then all the characters have a cash brainstorm sesh and come up with a plan that requires everyone to work together. Ultimately, the plan hinges on using Knuckles' Master Emerald to stop the Chaos Emeralds. Knuckles and Sonic then make it to the core with the Master Emerald, but they are stopped by the big lizard thing, also named Shadow. Luckily, the Eggman family insists on having a fatal weak point button at the top of their creations, and Shadow's able to take it down. That boss fight is actually super hard. So finally, Knuckles is able to bring the Master Emerald all the way to the Chaos Emeralds, But in response, the big lizard uses the Chaos Emeralds one last time to transport and transform himself into the Ark, guaranteeing that it crashes into Earth. Then we get the most epic cutscene of the entire game, where Sonic and Shadow use the 7 Chaos Emeralds to become Plus Ultra versions of themselves. They're able to kill the lizard, and then the Plus Ultra Sonic and Shadow use Chaos Control to transport the entire Ark away to safety. For some not very explained reason, Shadow dies from this, but Sonic is totally fine. But the world is saved, and that's all that matters. This speedrun was super fun to try after being a fan for such a long time. There was a lot of really cool skips in this run, but if you want to see something really cool, click here for my video of speedrunning Kina. I did not expect it to be such an interesting game for speedrunning, but it definitely is.
What have you done to Sonic? I'll never forgive you for this. I don't know, but what I do know is we all did it together.